Hey there, Postal here. So today I wanted to go over what I consider to be one of the best light fighter lines in World of Warplanes. It's certainly one of the most user-friendly lines, and I want to go over why I believe that to be true as well. And just in case you couldn't tell what line I think that is, I think it is the Yak line, the Russian, most maneuverable Russian light fighter line. And why do I think that? Well, I think the end result, your Yak 30, is an absolute wonderful airplane. As I've already stated in previous videos, I don't necessarily think it's the best Tier 10 light fighter, but it's probably the second best. It has absolutely wonderful maneuverability, relatively good altitude, pretty good airspeed, excellent gun armament, even though the numbers don't necessarily reflect that. The three guns that it does have are relatively accurate and pretty darn heavy hitting. You can take out ground attack airplanes relatively easily, just because of how strong they are. And so obviously having a great Tier 10 aircraft certainly makes going down the line more fun, but you don't want to be going down a fighter line and having to grind and deal with some rather lackluster airplanes along the way. I consider this to be the best light fighter line for starters, for beginners, because of one main reason, and that's because the entirety of the line is very similar. You're not having any types of airplanes that are completely different than the airplane previous to it. It starts at the I-5. This particular plane, I'm quite sure I still have it. Yeah, I do. Is the only Tier 1 plane I've kept, because it's so well-rounded, heavy-hitting, pretty good maneuverability for Tier 1. And I try to keep a plane for every tier. That way if I'm fighting up with some of my friends or clanmates, doesn't matter what they want to do, I've got a plane ready to go for it. So you got your tier 1, really neither here nor there. Everybody's going to have a Tier 1, but I have kept this one. At Tier 2, you've got the I-15. A lot of people have kept that as well. I've got plenty of Tier 2s. I don't need to keep this one. It's not a bad plane by any means, but it's nothing special. Tier 3, you have the I-16, the early edition. This particular plane I have kept as well. I absolutely love it. Even though it's a multi-role plane, it has great maneuverability. Same maneuverability you're used to before and that you'll be used to afterwards. Has good guns. And, I think, if I remember correctly, this is the plane that I have my highest frag count on, which is like 29. So this is really good at doing everything that you're going to need to be used to on the Yak line. Obviously, besides the rockets, that it has, it's very similar to everything that you'll be going down from Tier 4 and beyond. And so once you get off of the multi-role planes, you'll actually be going down to your true light fighters. You go from the I-16 early to the I-17. And this is setting you up for everything you need to learn on this particular line. Great maneuverability, mediocre guns, but good in a dogfight. Low survivability, but again, use your maneuverability to stay out of the from getting hit. And mediocre altitude and airspeed, and you're just going to go down the line, and you're going to see it gets a little bit better in every aspect, but it's just like the previous plane. Yak 1, great maneuverability, mediocre airspeed and altitude. Kind of poor altitude actually. Mediocre guns, but they hit strong enough when you get behind somebody, which is pretty easy to do in this whole line. Yak 1, which is a plane that I have kept, more of the same. And I know it sounds repetitive, but that's the whole reason this particular line is a great line to go down as somebody's first light fighter line. You're not going to be caught by surprise by any of the particular planes on this line. Some are obviously stronger for their tier than others, but to me, I would have actually kept every single plane on this line from Tier 5 up. The main reason I haven't is because I just don't have the hangar space, and I've got plenty of tier 5s. I would like to buy back the Yak 3. Not a lot of people think the Yak 3 is a strong plane on this particular line, but it fits directly between the 1M that we were just looking at and the Yak 15. It is, you know, just a little bit better on the guns, a little bit better on the maneuverability, a little bit better on the airspeed, a little bit better on the altitude performance. And you're going to fight and fly this plane exactly how you would every other plane in this line. Get to your Yak 15. Absolutely wonderful plane. If I've got any gripes about this plane, it's that I hate the way it looks. I really don't like the early jet models that have the engine like kind of hanging out of the fuselage, but it is what it is. It really does look like they just kind of threw it onto a prop fuselage and just kind of figured a way to squeeze a jet engine onto it. You'll see a significant upgrade when you get to the tier 9 though. So we've got the tier 8. I've kept it because it's a wonderful plane. Again, it does everything that you've wanted it to do, but better. It's got better gun armament, better airspeed thanks to that jet. Altitude performance is still relatively poor, pretty darn poor actually, and the maneuverability is off the charts good. Excellent plane. And you know, I like it because it's one of the you know, at tier 8 it's like half the planes have jets and half the planes don't. This one's one of them that does, and so this is actually the reason I started going down this line, is because I wanted to try to get a jet as early as possible. But this plane, just like every other plane on this line, fits its niche very well. You go from the tier 8 to the tier 9, the Yak 19, and you can see, okay, so now we're into the modern jets, where we go from the, you know, what can we do to get a jet engine onto a plane phase to what can we do to have a functional and useful jet plane. And so this plane is absolutely wonderful as well. You've got a much higher, well, I say much higher, but you've got a higher altitude performance. You've got that higher airspeed. Got the still great maneuverability, and you've been able to upgrade your guns to 3 rather than 2 that you had on the Yak 15. And from here, you go to the pinnacle. You've got your Yak 30, and so, you know, when you've got these particular guns, 23 mil is hard hitting enough to really tear down anything that you can get behind, which of course you're going to be getting behind very often. It'll take down heavy fighters. It'll take down ground attack planes. It'll tear up light fighters and multi-rolls. And so the key playing style with this particular plane line, and the whole line, is keep your head on a swivel. Don't let any heavy fighters or multi-rolls sneak up behind you and tear you up, because your survivability is so low on this particular line. As long as you're able to be aware of your surroundings and be always moving, you'll be able to get behind them. Now, obviously, you're going to run into some planes that just have the airspeed to you know, buzz attack you and get away from you before you can do anything about it. But as long as you're able to kind of keep your wits about you and you know, avoid those kind of hits, you can whittle them down even if they're getting away from you. One thing I really do like about the Yak 30 over the other planes in this particular line is the airspeed is significantly higher than it is on the rest of the line. And I mean tier by tier. Obviously a tier 6 airspeed is going to be much lower than a tier 10. But once you get to the tier 9, because this plane is built to be, you know, it's built kind of from the ground up as far as the jet is concerned. It's not just like the Yak 15 where they threw a jet engine on a prop plane. The airspeed, you'll notice a significant difference in your airspeed. You can keep with some of those planes at least for a little while longer that would have gotten away from you in the earlier tiers. So let's go ahead and take I've been able to play a little bit of gameplay for the lower tier planes. Let's go ahead and take a look at some gameplay for the Yak 30, just to give everybody kind of a heads up of what you're aiming for and what you're getting yourself into. And I'll be right back. Alright, so here we've got the Yak 30, Tier 10 battle. Ooh, got a flight on the other side. Do we have any help on my side? Oh yeah, we've got... Ooh, I do like a good saber. Hopefully he's a good saber fighter. And you know, so all I really have to look out for, the LA is relatively maneuverable. If he's any good, which I think he is, I think I've run into him before. If he's any good, he can cause me issues.
Pilots, get ready for action. Let's go.
So let's go ahead and flip this Garrison, and then at that point, on this map, what I do is I flip a Garrison and then I make a decision. Do I go towards the airbase or do I go towards the center? Typically I'm going towards the center because you need the military base, of course. But you're going to notice with this plane I can actually get up to about 5,000 feet before I get in the yellow. And that actually makes a difference on planes I can interact with, where I wouldn't have been able to do
a large enemy
close to
force
this.
is attacking the military base.
At
Proceed
Tier 8
with
or even
caution.
Tier 9, I can get up quite a bit higher at Tier 10. And so obviously the airspeed is quite a bit better. This is a jet made to be a jet, not a jet engine thrown onto a prop plane. And so my airspeed can get up pretty high. Good God, people. Can you just let me... Really? I'm going to get knocked down by a Spitfire. I'll be really annoyed. The actual airspeed can get up there quite a bit, but it does bleed speed pretty easily. Come on. I was going to say, I could be annoyed if I didn't get him. Let's go ahead and defend, since the middle's already... Man, they're going to get the airbase as well. Since the middle's already been flipped, there's no point in like rushing to get there. Let's go ahead and defend our little Garrison. First, is this match I'm just going to have everybody killing the plane? I feel like I got a paper plane right now. Alright, so again, as soon as I flip something, I hit the X button and figure out what my next victim is going to be. I'm not going for the center right now, just because... What in the flip a dip, man? Kidding me? Well, I don't even know what hit me. Because I know the enemy can't hit without a 90-degree angle from the center, can it? It's a ground attack. Hit the air brakes, swivel around. Oof, that bomb in my face. And awesome, they've gotten this one. Let's go towards the center. There's no point in me trying to flip the airbase over there. Looks like they're going to the center as well. There's Moon, so keep an eye out for whatever the heck that thing is. Wish I had more hit points, but that's okay. I will... So, okay, this guy's coming to me anyway. Oh, it's the LA. Alright. So let's go up and get him. Doing that, keep our eyes on the swivel for that enemy. And we've got him twisted. And let's get back down to that ground attack plane and figure out our next step. Ground attack? No. This ground attack. Oh.
The military base is
good.
ours.
I wanted this military
Prepare
base.
to carry out a strike.
Let's see if we can try to just get him. He's going to be cleaning it up. This is a human. And flip back over. We've got to, when you're going against human ground attacks, you've got to be just like you're in a dogfight, to be honest. Wiggle yourself around so you have no idea where you're going. And as long as you're doing that, you'll have a chance. This guy, if I stay in a straight line like I am, he's going to tear me up. Now let's do it again. Come on, if our pilot wasn't dead, he'd be dead already. Right, can I get get some hit points. Please, please, please. Try to avoid getting hit by anything. Just need to get my hit points before I start attacking a ground attack like a moron. Where I can attack this at 2H.
The airfields are ours. We've got the
Goody.
enemy
I'm just gonna
contained.
hang out in the center here. That's what my job's gonna be. This is where the plane wants to be, is hanging out in the center. An enemy can get away from me if he really wants to. If I could aim a little better. Come on, thank you. Alright, let's go back.
Our military base is launching strikes on the enemy. This will make things easier for you.
Alright. So I can get him while he's not paying attention. Oh, don't hit my own guy. Bombs away. Aware of the bomb drops. I've also got to be aware of that enemy. If he comes up behind me, he can tear me up pretty quickly. But with playing with these kind of weapons, you want to be trying to take advantage of any kind of plane that comes into your peripheral, really. And yeah, it could be a ground attack with high hit points or a heavy fighter, but the guns here will eventually get through what you need it to get through. So here's that enemy. Let's get that enemy out. See if I can use my boost.
Hang in
Oh,
there.
if he's turning,
You'll
he's
soon be
making a
cut off from
mistake.
support. I say again, support will
He
not be
cannot outturn
available.
you. In fact, nothing at this level is going to outturn you. As much as I like the saber, it is not going to... It is not going to be able to outturn you. So utilize that with the Yak-30. Really? Alright, so come on. Load in down here. Defend some stuff really quick. Anything that's down in your altitude range is going to be toast. Just hit the brake, air brake, get behind them, hit the X as soon as they're done. Hit the next guy, boost
That's
to
it.
him.
There's no way to break through for you now. You're on your own.
Pay attention. There we go. Next guy. Boost to him. How are we doing on points? We're doing fine. We're doing fine. Boosty. Airspeed's not everything you want it to be, but it's not as terrible as all that. So
Keep it up. Victory is almost ours.
SF-94. Cool. Alright, let's get over to defend the... We'll kind of go between the garrison and the... Well, never mind, we just need to get to the military base, don't we? We're up too high, but in a one-on-one, you're still going to be okay. It's the hornet's nests that you need to avoid being up this high. You really want to make sure that you're at the proper altitude when you've got too many enemies coming at you. Let's go ahead and get to the center and shoot. So, if you want to let me get behind you, that's fine. He's doing. Just use the boost and get away. But if he wants to just try to out-circle me, he's not going to do it, and I'll let him try. I think we're going to win no matter what, so I'm just going to go ahead and get this ground attack. Just because it's the closest thing to me. And I can catch up with it.
Is launching rocket strikes on our complex. Try to neutralize the enemy military base. I'm proud of you, pilot.
So did the same thing that I've done on every other plane on this line, and did really well at it. So if you can excel at tier 4, you're going to excel at tier 10 with this particular plane line. Let's head back to the hangar. Alright, so we're back at the hangar now. Pretty darn good game, I would say. 15 frags. Got a new skill point, so I'll definitely use that on my accuracy. And you can see I've got the firefighter skill for this particular plane, really kind of needed at some point for any of the Yaks if you decide to keep them. But 15 frags, 17,000 personal points, I think, 16,000 plus, and had a pretty good game there. So this particular plane fits right in line with every other plane that you've got on the Yak line. And again, if you enjoy the lower tiers on this particular line, you're going to definitely enjoy the upper tiers. One of my favorite planes to play, actually the tier 8, tier 9, and tier 10, you could plug me in any one of them and I'd absolutely have a blast. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. I highly recommend, if you're typically a heavy fighter plane person, ground attack, bomber, light fighters aren't quite your thing, try the Yak line. It's an absolutely wonderful line, and it really builds you up as you go down each tier. You're not going to be surprised by anything on this particular line. It's just going to be step by step all the way to tier 10 and the wonderful Yak 30. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great day. Check me out on Saturday. I'll be live gameplay on Twitch, and otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Friday.